Thanks for tuning into this broadcast on BloombergQuint. We are in conversation with, the promoters of one of the businesses, the stock of which has been on a roll the last couple of days, because they've given some updates saying that they're not seeing any change in contracts or programs. They're saying that customers are willing to catch up on the lost production time due to the pent-up demand as well. A positive development of demand coming in from the China plants for that business. Yes, I'm talking about Motherson Sumi Systems. And Laksh Vaaman Sehgal joins us right now with his thoughts on how he or they are seeing the current business environment and what do they make of what will happen over the next few weeks. Laksh, good having you. Thanks for joining in. Neeraj here. I'm wondering, the updates that you've given are much more positive than what the street would have anticipated. What makes you so confident about this? Is this China restarting and stability at some of your other plants that you were seeing as well? Give us some color about how the environment is right now.
Thanks, Neeraj. I think in times like these, everybody needs to be optimistic, and we at Motherson are diehard optimists. So look, it's based on our experience. I think China was one of the first places, of course, to lock down, as we all know, and also one of the first to open up post that they're getting the virus into control in their country. And what we really saw to our surprise was that all the customers, the demand that was being forecasted came back very, very strongly. Actually we are just in time, just in sequence suppliers, so we don't really have that much of inventory that is really lying around. But we saw that immediately the customer was picking up quite close to the pre-COVID levels. And that fact was also confirmed by some of the reports coming from the dealerships, where the people that are walking into those dealerships, number of footsteps is actually higher than pre-COVID levels, because a lot of the people are opting for personal transportation over public transportation at the moment because of the health concerns that they have. And, also goes to see how critical automotive is as a backbone of industry in any country, and how valuable transportation is also for any country's economy, because this is one of the first things that comes back after times of stress.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think R.C. Bhargava also mentioned that once this lockdown gets over, he expected a bounce back in demand for cars. I was just wondering, though, your China plants would not be necessarily catering only to the Chinese demand, right? So if you're saying your production levels are back to nearly pre-COVID-19 times, is the domestic demand in China alone to bring the production levels back up so much?
Yeah, most of our supplies is to the local car production for the cars that are being produced and supplied over there. There's not so much of exports that's happening. So a majority is definitely in the local demand. It's not only on the passenger vehicle side, but also on the truck side that we have. We have PKC plants there as well. And also they are part of essential, right? We are also supplying to making ambulances, agricultural equipment, etc. And all of that has also seen a resurgence in demand, and also a few of those plants remained open as they were deemed essential to continue to supply, to increase some of these vehicles that were required during these COVID times. So again, we remain optimistic. We think what has happened in China should happen in other parts of the world as well. People will definitely opt for personal transportation over public, at least right now, initially. And we think that all the plants that have been given dates for opening up by the customers and the governments globally actually are holding firm as of right now. So we should see most of our plants completely opened up latest by the second week of May, with the vast majority of them opening up already in a week's time and in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I would want to ask you that also, but just to get some clarity, what you are trying to say is that you guys at Motherson believe that there could well be a bit of a J-curve effect to car sales in the second half of calendar year 20?
Yeah, I think, we have to see how the plants open up. The rest of the world, China is one country, and we take a lot of positive lessons from there, and hopefully that's repeated everywhere else. But we do believe that the demand will come back. Definitely, April has been tough because most of the manufacturing has been in lockdown. But we see May as plants open up, they'll take maybe a month to catch up. And by June, July, August, a lot of the customers are indicating, trying to get to those levels to pre-COVID, and if not more, and trying to catch up on some of the lost demand. So, we don't believe that that there will be, a depression or something like that. We think that the markets will come back very strong. There is pent-up demand that needs to be addressed. And we are getting also a ton of support from the governments all around the world for supporting of opening of manufacturing, and also from cash flow perspective, supporting with deferrals or salary payments for people that are working in the factory. So there's a lot of proactiveness. People do see how critical the automotive industry is. As you can imagine, it's linked with a whole bunch of different industries. We use a ton of steel, so a lot of commodities are there, banking for financing, etc. So a lot of industries are interlinked with the automotive one. So once the automotive gets going, it really gets the whole economy going as well. So that's a really good positive thing that we're seeing coming from all the governments, and the support from even our customers. That's really coming, and everybody is gearing up for a bounce back.
Just a quick follow-up, really. You mentioned that you're receiving some positive reopening dates. If I'm not wrong, you mentioned this as well. Is this happening across the world, or is it happening in specific geography? Because I believe you got plants across the world. So where is it that you're seeing these first signs of optimism?
So definitely, we are now located in 41 countries, so we're completely diversified. But the majority of our plants are in the Europe region. And that they contribute to a significant part of our revenue. So yes, most of our plants in Europe will be open by the second week of May. In fact, some of our customers have already opened their powertrain, parts plants which have to open up first before the auto component starts, which will start up in a few days' time. And then subsequently, we have to start supplying in about a week's time. And within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we have hard dates as of now that all the plants, vast majority of them, will be open. So unless there's another spike in the infections or something like that, these dates are holding strong, because as you can imagine, it takes quite a bit of organization to get everything up and running from complete shutdown. But we have really implemented, and full credit to my team, we have implemented reopening policies and manuals, handbooks for every single plant, where we've looked at ways where we can still maintain social distancing, reorganization of assembly lines so it's not crowded, how people are even coming into offices in buses, or using elevators, to really that minute detail. Those kind of plans have really been set in to make sure that the reopening is smooth. There's a lot of, sanitization, cleaning, all those kind of things are there between shifts to make sure that the health and safety of our employees is our prime focus, because that's really our main concern, making sure that all the employees come into our plants globally and are in a safe working environment and can continue to supply and support our customers.
Okay, one final question, Laksh, and that's with regards to if you can just kind of explain how would the debt and the pledge details look, because that Morgan Stanley note mentioned, I think you, as a part of the COVID-19 impact update, you shared how your debt levels are compared to what they have been, and they have made some assumptions as to what could happen to pledges as well amidst all of this uncertainty around the financial impact that COVID-19 can have. Can you just explain that piece, please?
Sure. Our March 31st, 2020 net debt levels have been the lowest in 11 quarters. In Motherson consolidated, we have a net debt of about 71.5 billion rupees. And our liquidity is extremely strong as of March 31st. So our consolidated cash position is almost about 47 billion rupees, with about 410 odd million euros being cash at our international subsidiaries at SMRP BV. And we have further consolidated lines, committed and uncommitted facilities of around 55 billion, with about 460 million euros of that available again at our international subsidiaries at SMRP BV. So we have enough headroom in our bond documentation to utilize any of these, and also we don't have any major maturities of debt in the next 12 months. So Motherson is financially very, very strong. we believe that we will, come out only stronger out of this crisis. And we are also, looking at raising additional capital just in case if there is a, extension of the lockdown or some very good acquisition opportunities that come around during this time, just to bolster our balance sheet and make sure we have available liquidity for any circumstance that happens. And we're in a very strong position. And even in our family holding company, we repaid a bunch of the debt over there, and also have released pledged shares. So overall, Motherson Sumi is in a very strong position, and so is its parent company. And we are actually looking forward to the reopening and the opportunities that it throws up. And in the meantime, we are completely prepared, and everybody has been really working from home. Rationalizing costs, making sure that our capex is in check. So we believe that we will only come out stronger once the reopen happens.
Pledges have come down to what, 19% of the promoter holding, or lower than that?
What number are you talking about? Because the pledge shares
the pledge shares. The I believe the promoter family had pledged what, 22%, 23%, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so that's already come down, like you have rightfully said. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but and that will continue to further come down as we go down next few quarters, because one, Motherson's complete capex of all the new plants has completely been done. So we don't envisage any big numbers of capex that's really being there, and all the new orders for which the plants had been set up, all those new plants are up and running once this lockdown really opens and the execution of these orders happens. So they should generate a lot more cash. And again, that will be used to pay down the debt further, and we believe that it's on the right trajectory.
Laksh, one final 30-second answer if you can. I've taken too much of your time already, but just wondering, would having had to pay employees, I know you're talking to governments to try and see whether deferrals, etc. can happen, but would you reckon that the operational metrics would naturally so worsen even in a time like this, even for an efficient company like you, for the next couple of quarters at least?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, absolutely that will happen for at least a month this first quarter. If you had no production in April, that's definitely going to happen. There's no way around it. But I think again, looking at the result that's come from China, the reopening and how they are, really pushing sales over there, and how the markets have bounced back, we believe it's a short, maybe 1 quarter situation. In automotive, when we get our orders, they're 5 to 7 years worth of orders. So 1 quarter is really not that long, and especially in a unprecedented COVID-19 situation. Just having 1 quarter, I don't think will have a major impact. And again, we believe that from May, June, you will see back to pre-COVID levels, and we're optimistic about it.
Well, I hope your optimism rubs off big time. But this was really nice chatting with you, Laksh. Thanks so much for taking the time out and speaking to us at BloombergQuint. All the best.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
And viewers, thanks for tuning into this very optimistic outlook presented by the management of Motherson Sumi Systems.